Cache-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads. This is episode 315, and tonight we're talking about trackables. Now, you may not recognize my face or recognize my voice because I'm like a guest on this podcast anymore. No, that's not true. Yes, I've been gone for a couple of weeks due to all sorts of different reasons, but I'm back. And I, by the way, am Chris of the Northwest. Yeah, if you've forgotten me, I completely understand. The person you would not have forgotten is our illustrious host, Daryl W4.
And I would not have picked illustrious. This is the right word, but it's good to have you back because I don't have to do the opening.
Glowing?
Maybe.
He's absolutely beaming today.
Beaming, yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And that other voice you're hearing is I'm Johnny Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash, and welcome all you GeoGearhead folks out there. Happy to be here today.
And for anyone who doesn't recognize him, you should go check out his YouTube channel, and that's Johnny Cash at YouTube. Now it's GeoHnny,
Correct.
which is a little bit confusing for some people.
It is a little, but it's cool. It's cool
Yeah,
like that. It's cool like
very
that. And
cool.
what's even more confusing is my geocaching name is I'm Johnny Cash.
Yes, and that does add that extra level.
Yeah. On all social media, though, it's just Johnny Cash.
Well,
Make
and
it
for
simple.
some reason, I keep dropping the H from Johnny.
So it's Geo Johnny.
Yeah, so
Geo Johnny Cash.
I keep messing up the and that I was trying to tag you the other day and I realized that's why it didn't work. My brain just does not want to recognize that H.
Yeah.
In any case, we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about trackables today. We last talked about the trackables just a few weeks ago, really, on the 307. And one of the questions that came up on social media that you brought up with us is the virtual discovery of trackables via social media, whether it's good or bad in feelings about it. So we're going to have a little bit of a opinion conversation here.
Sure.
And I want to kick this off with something I mentioned to you, Ron, is that like 10 years ago, I think it was actually more than that, like 11 years ago, you weren't allowed to do the virtual discoveries. And one of the classic examples was Podcaster put out one of their trackables on one of their shows. They got a couple hundred discoveries or something like that. And then geocaching.com locked it. When I talked with them about it, they don't even really remember it. They know, they remember something vaguely about it, but they didn't remember the situation. I remember it vividly because we had a huge debate around that locally. And then when we've talked with some of the newer geocaching.com employees, because, it was Groundspeak back then, geocaching.com now, and they've grown up a lot since then, they really don't remember a policy against the virtual discoveries. And at this point, they don't have one, so it's all fair game in their book.
Right.
So this has changed, and I think a lot of this goes back to when you started caching.
To when I started caching?
Well, no,
Or just
your
anybody.
Opinions are shaped.
How far
when,
back you've gone? Yes.
Right.
So that's true. That's true. I can see a lot of the more the newer geocachers out there. Seeing that discovery is just the new thing to do.
Well, and social media wasn't even a thing, 11, 12 years ago.
Right.
So that's something that's been added essentially. Your virtual discoveries back then were, okay, I'm emailing you the tracking number or something like that. And Chris, you've been in this long enough too. You I'm sure remember some of that.
Oh, Sonny, sit down by the fire and let me tell you a story. Yeah. I remember the Podcaster incident of getting their trackable locked. And I remember there were several others during that time frame. where they were kind of, determining what should they do with trackables, and, should you be allowed to find them virtually. And,
Mhm.
I guess that kind of set my mindset, and I'm not for it personally. If I'm not holding it in my hand, I'm not going to count it.
Okay. No, I can see that. I don't have a problem with virtual discovery if it's somebody that I know. Like, somebody offering, like somebody I know through YouTube or Facebook, whatever, and offering their code for me to discover. But if it's somebody I randomly see a code, I'm not going to bother with it. And another thing that I don't agree with is people discovering bulls from the gallery. Like I've had that happen a couple times where I accidentally took I always like to have a picture of my travel bug, and it's travel. What do you call those? The thing attached to the trackable tag.
The tag? Oh, the mission?
The mission or the item itself. Anyway, I accidentally took a picture. I like to have a picture of it on the trackable page. So sometimes, though, I made a mistake and put the code in the picture, and then I get a discovery by somebody, trolling through the pictures on the geocaching.com and discover it. To me, I wouldn't do that. I'd either have to see it in person, discovery, but I have to see it from somebody that I know, and then that way I can appreciate the trackable more, because I know that it belongs to somebody that I'm associated with or interacting with online.
Mhm.
So that's my opinion of virtual discoveries anyway.
Now, I've been at events and I've had people hand me a sheet of tracking numbers and said, "Here, you can just save time. Here's all my collection." Like, well, you don't have all your collection here. I'm, keep it. I'm not going to do it this way. I don't
Yeah,
feel this is right.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. Yeah.
See, and I've bounced around with that kind of stuff, and I still don't have a firm position on it. I generally am not a big fan of the virtual discoveries through social media. Every week I'm putting up a code for people to discover if they watch the YouTube video,
You
and
are
I
so
get
social, Daryl.
I get maybe like half a dozen, logs on that. But that's kind of cool because it's like a little Easter egg. You have to watch the video to get it, or
Mhm.
there's a spreadsheet that's available for anyone who watched that or listened to that 307 show. You know all about that. But it's not something that I do a whole lot of. However, I love going around doing the trackable discoveries in the parking lots. That's, especially with TB scan, that's just become a big thing for me. And since then, I've kind of eased up on my requirements for it. So when we go to events and things like that, it's, I go and scan all of the trackables that people are bringing, not like the mega events and stuff like that. But, if there's a table of trackables, I'll go and scan them all, discover them, and many times look for ones that I can move. Then if someone offers up their trackable through a private message or whatever, I'll discover almost all of those just because it's kind of fun. They're offering up their tag that they got for me to discover, and it's a way to acknowledge, yeah, I've seen it, even though it's only through a personal message. But for one that's like publicly posted, that I tend not to do as much
Uh,
because it's just kind of, there's no connection to it for me.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, again, I wouldn't bother with discovering trackables unless it's like you posted something on Instagram or something. Hey, discover my trackable, because I know you. I would do it, but if I don't know you, then I wouldn't best mess with it.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I had done on some of the like Periscope and YouTube live videos was actually share the tracking number for a coin or whatever that I'm dropping into a cache. Because then it's cool. You're there, experiencing the find, experiencing dropping it. So you're part of it.
Mm.
So that to me is a lot different than if I'm just going to like post a photo of the tracking number on Instagram. Now, if I put it as part of a story, that would be different. And that kind of stuff I would actually go and discover. Because again, I'm experiencing something. It's not just, okay, here's another number to grab. And then there's also,
Agreed.
like you were saying, Chris, those collections of numbers, tracking codes that people will give you because here's their collection. I have done a number of those kind of things because I know that cacher. I've seen parts of their collection, especially if they have it in a nice, easy text file that I can grab and paste into project-gc. Well, that just makes so easy that I just do it. It's easier than trying to go and scan 20 or 30 numbers. With TB scan, I'll just highlight this column and paste it in.
Yeah, TB scan has really changed the game as far as quick discoveries.
Yeah.
See, is it? No, it's
Geo
GeoLive, yeah, has that ability as well. And that's really nice to be able to, take basically scan it with your phone. Or I used to take pictures and then, manually put those in afterwards. But you could sit there and take a picture of a dozen trackables quickly, and then when you've got time, you can sit back and enter those in.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a couple of tips with TB scan. One, you can save the images that you shoot with TB scan to your camera roll in case you want to do that. But two, if you want to take photos of a trackable, you can then import them essentially into TB scan to process later.
Mm-hmm. I forgot you can do that.
Yeah, either way, you have some options there that make it easy to do that.
I think taking pictures are a good way to go anyway, because if you have a list of numbers, I want to see what that trackable looked like. So if I take a picture of it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that cute, pony on the tag. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that one. And then go ahead and log it. But otherwise, if you have a list,
go back and check if you discover that something got messed up. Now, TB scan will actually validate that code essentially if you have an internet connection, which is one of the nice things about TB scan. But I like having that image as a record in case, if I'm in a poor connection area or something like that, just so I have something to go back and say, ooh, this is what that number should have been.
I have TB scan, but I haven't really gotten into it that much.
Well, if you make it down to the Giga event on your way out, you'll probably make very, very good use of it.
Yeah. Now at the New Year's event, I totally forgot to go look at the trackable table. I noticed there was some out there, and I was just busy, doing other things, and I just totally forgot it. And I saw you there, and I didn't even get a chance to say hi. And you were sitting right next to the trackable table, so I guess I didn't make it to that second back half of the room there.
We like waved hi to each other, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I think I passed you a path tag.
Not this time. No.
No. Oh, okay.
No. Yeah, I don't think we said hi at all.
No, it was kind of a blur.
Isn't that like a discovery? Isn't that the equivalent of a geocoin discovery?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Hi.
I didn't have my name tag on, so he couldn't discover me.
Let me take a picture of you.
Yeah. Oh,
what was that saying? I heard a saying about that it's the only time it's okay to take pictures of someone's shirt or purse or bag if you're a geocacher.
Okay, I'll
just to get that trackable code, right?
And their tattoos?
And their tattoos, yes. The only time you take pictures of someone's tattoos, right?
Okay, now one thing I do want to mention with this virtual discovery thing, I do not think it's okay for, like, if I grab a tag or something like that, to post that number on like Facebook or one of the discovery threads and Reddit or something like that. It has to be one of my own if I'm going to share it like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I've had a bunch of the travelers that we've released where people have posted those to various threads, and I've actually gone and locked the listing because I would be getting like 30 discoveries a day on a coin that went missing. Like someone probably grabbed it, put it in their collection, and then listed it on one of the services.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't have that in their collection because it's meant to travel.
True.
So I just go and lock those listings. which isn't too hard to do. If you're the owner of the Trackable, you just go to the Trackable page, and one of the options in that pop-up is lock. So you just click the lock, accept, and you're done. And then it's locked until you unlock it. And
Okay.
that means no one can do discovers or move, which is the problem.
Mm.
Now, some of this stuff with discoveries is very likely to change in the next year or so, because there have been a number of complaints, as I understand, to geocaching.com about the way that people are doing the discover stuff now. We mentioned this in the last show again on Trackables.
Yeah.
But one of the ideas that's been floated that I suspect geocaching.com is going to like is the option to essentially lock for discovery. So you make a listing or make a trackable not be discoverable. So the only way you can do it is to log it in and out. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily a good idea, because then people are going to pick it up and put it right back in the same spot, like we used to do back in the
Yeah.
day for visit logs.
A dip, a coin dip.
Right. Well, now you can do the visit thing.
Mhm.
But, before we had the visit, remember back, 8 years ago, I think is when they actually gave us the option to do a visit. And then I think it was a little later they gave us a discover log. But you'd have to pick up the trackable, have it in your inventory, drop it into that geocache, create another log that you picked it back up to put into the next geocache.
Oh, yes. So typically, if you're dipping a coin, you would have at minimum 3 logs on each geocache.
It was insane. It
That
really
sounds
was.
confusing.
Yeah, it really was a mess. And that's why they gave us the tools to make that stuff happen. And the Discover has, I think, gotten a little bit out of control with all of these virtual discoveries. It's a great tool, but now in hindsight, they probably should have given the owner an option to limit that. And it was only, 4 years ago, I think, that we got that collection feature, which gave us the ability to keep people from picking up like our cars and our t-shirts and
Hmm.
even worse the tattoos. So the, the ones that you have with you, you can now move into your collection, and they can't be moved. They can
Right.
only be discovered. So we kind of need the opposite thing to say these can only be moved. They can't be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're in your collection, though, how do you visit with them yourself? Like, say, your car.
Well, you can't. That's the problem with
Yeah.
the collection as
Yes,
it
I remember
stands
you were
right
talking
now.
with the fish out of water about that
Right.
last show.
However, she has one that lets her do that, even though it's in her collection, and we haven't figured
Yeah.
out how that works. My guess was you might be able to like turn off the collection, but while it's in your collection, and it still would remain in your collection, but then you can drop it. But I couldn't make that work. So that theory was not going to hold water. I really don't know what it comes down to.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I understand the concept of collecting, of the collection, but yet when I go and practice out in the field and it's like, "Oh, yeah, should I put this in my collection or not? I don't know. Hold on, let me go think about this."
Yeah,
Like yes, it should be in my collection. It's okay.
I just have a whole thing of trackables that are in my collection, largely because I do the trackables on the show, so I need a whole
Mhm.
bunch if I'm going to keep going. 52 a year. But more than that, when I'm going to some of the local events, it's been really fun to have this ring of trackable tags I just hand to people. Here, discover these if you haven't already, and it can be a lot of fun and conversation starter as well. A couple of other things to mention, though, from that pop-up list. If you're the owner, you have the option, if it is in the collection, to move it back into your inventory, at which point you can dip it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can go and move to inventory, dip it into visit into a cache, and then move it back into your collection. That's a lot of extra work,
That's a
but
lot of extra work.
it
Yeah.
works. That's the kind of thing I'll probably consider doing at a mega event for something like the car. I'm not going to do it for my ring of 30 trackables.
Mhm.
But you also have the option there to mark an item missing. So if
I did that today.
if your trackable goes missing, you now have a way to say it's not in this cache, it's not in my collection or my inventory, it's just gone. And I've had to do that with some of the items, either because the cache didn't have the trackable in there, and that one you actually have as the cache owner too. If you go to a trackable that's logged into your cache, you will have the option to mark that item missing.
Oh, okay, that's
So
good. I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah, if you go and do maintenance, you can mark that one gone.
Okay.
Love to do that.
Yeah. Well,
And now,
that's good to let the trackable owner know, hey, it's not in here. Yeah.
right. Well, and it lets the finders know if they're looking for, like, this was a big deal way back with the Jeep trackables because everyone wanted to find a Jeep trackable
Mhm.
and they went missing quickly.
Uh,
So people would go scrambling to find these Jeep trackables, and if it was in a cache, you'd get a string of people looking for it, and they couldn't find it because someone had
that
grabbed it. But
sounds
they wouldn't
frustrating.
necessarily log it for weeks,
Mm.
or they just grabbed it. They wouldn't even log the cache find, and now you have no Jeep trackable, and you don't know who took it. So they had to make it available to the cache owner to mark it as missing.
Okay. I was
Because
wondering
those
how
Jeep
many of
ones
those.
weren't actually.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
wondering how many of those tin cup trackables actually went out and traveled and survived. Because
Yeah, it's a good
that was a cool
question.
item actually.
Yeah, but it was something that you got when you bought the whiskey too.
Which was
There
an
just wasn't
excellent
that.
marketing ploy,
It
if you think
was.
about it. Yeah. I mean, I
I
fell for it
really like
myself. I
them.
said, "Man, I didn't get the trackable, but I want that tin cup." And I tried the whiskey. But then again, I like whiskey. So
See, I don't like whiskey that much,
yeah.
but I tried it in part because we have a cache in front of a local liquor store. So I figured that made a great photo op.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
It's a whiskey with the cache and the cup. Really worked. Anyway,
Yeah.
but you also have the option to recalculate distance if something goes wrong. I haven't been paying attention to that lately, but that was something that really used to be bad. It would be weeks before the distance calculations would refresh, and sometimes even then they wouldn't be right. So I think that's more of a legacy item,
Hmm.
but it's in there if you see problems. And I suspect that it's a queue. I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that it's a queue that does the distance of the calculation. So if you go and log, if you have like a bunch of logs in your queue, you go and submit all those and want to find out what your distance that like your dog has traveled with all those visits,
Hmm.
then you can hit that recalculate and hopefully you'll get an answer back quickly.
Hmm. I was going to tell you about the cache that or not the cache, the trackable that I logged as missing. It actually went missing in 2016, but before that, it had traveled 13,361 miles, which is pretty cool, and it was in the Canary Islands. And someone actually emailed me that said, "Hey, it's not in this cache." And that was in 2016, but I forgot all about it. But then in preparation for today, I was looking at all my trackables that are out in the wild, and so I logged this one as missing. But 13,000 miles is not that bad. And I have another one that is a little harmonica with a trackable tag on it, and it's still out there, and it's traveled almost 15,000 miles. So it's cool to see when they travel far, but it's kind of frustrating. I mean, you've talked about this in the other show about when they go missing. So I actually had a travel bug hotel I built on my Little Free Library because I have a cache in there that's a fake book, but you don't want to put trackables in there because the person going to the Little Free Library doesn't realize what that might be. So I put a travel book hotel and I stocked it with 4 or 5 fresh trackables right off the bat. 2 of them went missing from there and were never seen again. And so I don't understand. It was locked and everything. So I don't. It was a geocacher who took them, but I don't know where they are.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately not an uncommon thing. You'll see a lot of
Yeah.
times where someone wants the trackable, so they just take it. Now, I was just curious because I had a whole bunch more trackables in my uh, inventory or in my ownership than I do now because I actually moved them off to another account that we had created for a project and never used, um, called the Graveyard, which I thought was appropriate. But I only have 296 trackables left in my inventory. Now, that's not counting
Damn.
the Cache Maniacs account, which has its own owned trackables from the original show, and that I think has something like 300 in it. But let's see if I log or if I look at the Graveyard. What is
Daryl,
Graveyard
you have
account?
a problem, Daryl.
Well, and most of those were ones that I have from the coins, because for like a year or two, Firefly03 and I would drop a coin, one of our personal coins, into every cache we hit. Even if it couldn't accept it, we would create the coin for that and then place it into the wild at like the next one. So we had a ton of these coins floating around. And all of those were ours that we had created. But let's see. For my owned trackables that have gone missing, I have 510.
510 gone missing.
510 that have gone missing.
Wow.
Let's see. 4 of those were my 2011 coin. My pepper coin was, I think, 2013 or 14, and there's 153 of those that have gone missing. And my mini film canister coins win the prize at 199 missing.
Hmm.
Those were the ones that were intentionally designed to fit into the film canisters, so that there's a little film canister with the film coming out the side, but they'd actually fit into the little film cans because we had a ton of them at the time in lamp skirts, and even in the woods we were seeing them all over the place, and we couldn't fit a normal coin into it. So that was our solution: is we made these tiny little coins, our mini coins, and those were the ones that were really the most fun to move around. But Chris, you were talking about adopting, and that's before the show, and that's how I do those. Is when they go missing, I move them from my ownership to the Graveyard account to get them out of my hair. But the adoption thing, you didn't realize that it was available for trackables.
Exactly. This is something I discovered just, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. Um, I have a coin that I was thinking, well, I should give that to someone. And then I thought, well, it's been activated under my account, and there's nothing I can do. I can give it to them, but they'll never actually own it. And, quick Google search came up to geocaching.com/adopt. It's the same page that you use for adopting geocaches. You can adopt trackables, or, put them up for adoption, however, whatever side you're on of that. And, I was like, oh, well, that makes it really easy. That makes a lot of sense. I had just never thought of it before.
Well, and a note with that adoption, it is not the trackable code that you're putting in there. It's that TB number.
Right.
So you have to go to the page, copy the TB number, and you can actually request to adopt or request the adoption go to someone else. So you have the choice either way. Here's an interesting tidbit, though. Someone was Wet Coaster was saying he has a trackable that's done over 109,000 kilometers. The one I have that's traveled the furthest right now is one of those that I put out in caches during that whole thing way back when. It's called, and the whole series was called Launched, and then the name of the cache. My Home Away from Home GC11KZ2. That one has gone 96,536 miles, and the last log was just on Boxing Day. So it's still alive and well. And let's see when that was released, because now I'm curious. That one was released May of 2007.
No kidding.
So
That's
it's been
that's
traveling for
amazing.
10 years.
Wow, that's cool. Still see there's good success stories with Trackables. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
But that one, I think we released 400 or 500 of those coins. And, that one I had 150 of them that went missing
Hmm.
so far. And I didn't release all of them. Some of them were released under Firefly 03's account. So I think there's maybe 30 or 40 of those still moving around. And one of them got caught in a fire in one of the wildfires like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And the cache owner actually sent that one back to me. It's really cool because the coating, the plating is all gone. It's just the nickel core. And they had a little like epoxy bubble over the photo to hold the photo in place and protect the photo, but it's a photo printed on tin kind of thing.
Mhm.
Very cool coins for anyone who hasn't seen them. But that bubble had come off and it changed colors. It looked like a sepia tone print. So
Hmm.
somewhere I have that coin. I have no idea where it is. It disappeared in my move into some box somewhere, but I know I still have it around here. And it was just kind of a cool coin, to have it survive a fire and come through reasonably unscathed because you could still get the tracking code and everything else off of it.
How do you guys feel about proxies? Either for a coin you have, but you don't want to send a coin out, or for a geocache. I keep saying geocache, a trackable that's gone missing. So you're sending out a new proxy for that missing trackable.
Now,
I-
for the tags, I'm not opposed to it so much, but I still don't like them either way. Especially for like the proxy coins where they're just putting a coin out, paper replica of the coin in the plastic container. I won't touch those.
Hmm.
I hate those. But it's a personal thing. I totally get why people don't release the coin, but I don't like when you have the coin in your collection and you release a proxy because to me, the coin is supposed to either be in your collection or traveling, not both.
Mhm.
Because then you'll end up with this discovery thing of a coin that's moving, and that kind of throws off the whole trackable thing to me. But that's my personal opinion on it.
Now, I'm all for there are so many coins that are sold now with a proxy that comes with them. So it's a high quality proxy. It's not, something that you've taken to a copy machine and, copied the coin onto a piece of paper and sent that out into the world. So
Well,
I
what
like
I
that
do
idea.
find
What's that, Daryl?
what I do find interesting is the gift coin, the big expensive gift coin, actually came
Mhm.
with a gift tag that had the same one. So it's actually a trackable tag, not the proxy coin. So
Mm,
you could
okay.
attach it to something and send it out. I thought was pretty cool. But again, I don't know that I like that so much, releasing it because I have this really cool big coin sitting on the shelf, but I'd have a trackable tag that's traveling and getting logs on that as well.
Hmm.
Just as the owner, it rubs me the wrong way. Continue. Sorry. I just
Yes,
thought
but
that was an
I
interesting.
would rather have that. I'm trying to see if I have one here. Where you get the big expensive coin that could, cost you 20, $25, or perhaps you've earned it and it's, a memento for you. I would rather put out you know, the small trackable, be it a Kinsey, an aluminum uh, copy of it, or a smaller coin, or not necessarily a path tag because that's a whole different thing, but something about that size that you release out into the wild and you let that do the exploring for you, and you keep your nice coin on the shelf here behind you, and you look at that and go, "Oh yes, that was a great day."
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But if I do that, I don't want people to discover that coin that's on the shelf either. It's not one that I'm going to put on like my list of trackables. I'm not going to put it up for trackable views.
Mhm.
It's just, I have this cool memento and then I have the proxy.
Right, there you go.
So for anyone who's listening, I just showed the coin and the trackable tag of that GIF event. But I like that better than I like the proxy coins. GX Proxy does those cool proxy coins, which they're great. However, I like these aluminum tags because you can attach it to something like the mission statement and move it around. But one of the things that a lot of people have done in order to not just keep their coins traveling, but in order to attach the mission to it as well, is drill a hole in the coin and put like a
Cinder
what's the
block
name?
on it.
No. The little chains that they put them in, the ball chains.
Yeah.
I like the cinder block idea.
Yeah, I like the cinder block idea too.
Yeah.
But again, that won't fit into a cache very well.
No, you take it to events and leave it with someone there.
Right. When the usually it's the event host who gets very upset at you for doing that.
Right. They get stuck with it, right?
But yeah, if you put the hole through the coin, chances are it's not going to go missing because no one wants a coin that has a hole in it. So that's one of those tips that a lot of people do. And same thing's true of when you attach something to a trackable. If it's something like a car, drill a hole through the hood of the car and attach it that way. One, it's less likely to come off if it's attached well like that, rather than like around an axle. I've picked up a number of those trackables way back in the day where they just like glue it to the axle of the car, of a Matchbox car. It's like, no, this doesn't work. I'm like going through the contents of the cache container to find the car that popped off the chain.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I've had that happen many times.
A Matchbox car is swag anyway. So some kid's going to want to take that Matchbox car.
Right.
Yeah. But not if, like you said, not if there's a hole drill through it. Yeah. Hitchhiker. Someone in the chat had mentioned that word hitchhiker. That was what I was trying to think of it.
Yeah.
The hitchhiker on the tag. Yep.
Yes. And then you had another question in here, Ron, about activating coins for personal collections.
Yeah. I'm wondering. I mean, I have a collection of coins, and I stopped activating them. After a few were activated, but then I just stopped. So it's a personal preference, I imagine. But do you want them all in your collection online, or do you just want them?
Well, and this,
just so you have
this
them?
is again one of those things that's changed over time. When I was into coin collecting 10 years ago, it was a big thing. And people were coin collecting and trading, and you'd pick up like 4 or 5 copies of the same coin when you went someplace, or there was a Geo Coin Club where you'd actually order like a 4x subscription and got a different coin every month, and then you go and trade them with people at events or online, or however you want to trade. And at that point, people did not activate their coin collections because it was worth more if it's unactivated than if it was activated.
That's a good point, because you don't want it in your name if you're going to trade it or give it away.
Right. What really, I think, changed that was now geocaching.com requires that the trackable codes, the activation for the trackable codes, be retrievable online. So as long as someone can see that tracking number, they can go and activate that coin. So now it's more of a liability if it's unactivated, because anyone can go and activate that coin. So more people, I think, now are activating the coins just so that it's their coin and no one else can activate it. And you can always adopt it out to a new owner.
I was going to say, yep, now you can adopt it, right?
Right. So that's actually, I think, the better way to do it, because that way you're assured it's your coin and no one else can activate it from out underneath you.
Good point.
White Coaster says we should weld the coins to iron girders.
I like his thinking.
I do, but I have a hard enough time finding a cache that will fit a coin, which means I would never get a coin into a cache ever again.
All you need is a magnetic Haida key. It'll stick right to the iron girder.
Oh boy, yes. Wow, we've already hit 40 minutes on this show.
Wow, that's cool. Well, let me bring up something else, if I may.
Oh, please.
Absolutely.
One of our Daryl, you know, this Facebook group. I'm not going to say the name of the Facebook group because I didn't get permission to use for post. But someone posted in our local group. It says, I just noticed while logging a cache that another geocacher has grabbed a trackable that was in my inventory and is now visiting caches with it. I still have this trackable in my physical possession. I can't figure out why someone would do this. This geocacher has about 150 finds, if that matters. Should I simply grab it back? So, you know, mistakes happen. Someone possibly, instead of discovering it, grabbed it, and now they don't realize that it's in their inventory, but they're visiting caches with it. So how does that happen?
Well, I think you're right that it's probably an accident. It's entirely possible that they had discovered and grabbed it instead of discovering it like they intended.
Mm-hmm.
But this brings up an interesting memory to me. Way back when we did the WAP interface for logging geocaches, because I tried to do my logs through the phone before we had web browsers on the phone. I've accidentally, on multiple occasions, logged like one digit or letter off, and I've logged caches. And you know, on the little old feature phone flip screens, you couldn't see enough to really tell what it was. So I was logging caches in like Europe and Australia accidentally, and then not figuring it out for like days later. So I totally understand how that works. And it's all it takes is like one letter or digit to be off a little bit and you grab the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And unless you actually know the name of a trackable, which is really, really hard, chances are you're not going to notice that that's happened. So that's my guess as to why it's happening.
And one of the responses to that post was that possibly this person is visiting with their, like, selecting all of their trackables to visit a cache, and that still is in there. So,
well, and some of the caching apps actually have the option to visit all trackables in every cache.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a cool feature if you're out moving a bunch of trackables on like a vacation or something and intend to drop them along the way. You'll drop or visit the trackables into every lamp skirt hide, for instance, just so that they get the mileage and show that they're there. And I've had trips where I take caches with me or travelers with me, and I never find a cache large enough to fit like one particular trackable. So I just visited into like one of the caches to say, yes, I made this trip. And they still have to bring it back and drop it in an event. But at least that way it got the mileage.
Yeah.
Which is also one of the reasons why I don't take trackables on vacation much with me anymore, unless I'm going to a geocaching event.
That's true. Now, I had recently, we shall say a new cacher, took my car tag. You know, it claimed it rather than discovered it. So I sent an email saying, hey, I'm sure you did this by accident, but I'm taking it back unless you want to, you know, pay the insurance on my car. And, you know, they replied, oh, I'm so sorry. That was an accident. So those things happen. And Daryl, you mentioned that you could get a number wrong or, you know, invert one of the characters. Somebody put a found log, a discovered log on one of my geocoins that have been missing for 2 to 3 years. I'm like, oh, you found it. Goes, oh, sorry. Wrong. I made a mistake.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those too.
Really hoped somebody had found it, but nope, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, but the last part of that question was should they simply grab it back? And I would say email, you know, not necessarily email, but, you know, contact them through the message center that, hey, you know, they've grabbed this trackable that they don't have and that you're grabbing it back, just to let them know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, that's just kind of a courtesy thing.
Okay, let me throw a situation out there. This is a real life situation. I'm not making anything up. Wits End was given a trackable here, you know, it was in, I think I might have given it to him because it was in Canada and he had data and I didn't. Anyway, and he started having it visit caches. and somebody wrote him a nastygram and said, "How dare you? I've got this trackable right here in my hand." So he sent him a picture and said, "This one?" And the guy goes, "Well, it looks like it. Mine's a different color, but it's the same tracking number." And I think what they had done is in an event had produced a bunch of these acrylic trackables all with the same tracking number.
Or what might have happened is it
Oh,
might have gone missing for a while, and that's the proxy. And this is the
yeah.
concern about proxies
Oh, yeah,
too.
yeah.
You this was a big thing for a few years, where when a trackable went missing, people would create the proxy tag and release a proxy tag
Mhm.
as a continuation of that trackable. And then a year or two later, all of a sudden that trackable started moving again. So you had two trackables moving
Right.
with the same tag,
Hmm.
with the same number, but totally different trackables, two different tags, you know,
Hmm.
but they all have the same number. So that's one of the things with the proxies that I don't like. If you're going to release it, make sure it's the only one that exists. You know, make sure it was destroyed, not just missing. And
Mhm.
believe me, I totally get the desire to put the copy out, and I've done that. And then I've had the tag, the original tag, come back to life. One of them, I released the copy tag, and I think that copy tag got lost like right away, and then the original was found. It was at the bottom of someone's trunk. It had slipped into the spare wheel well. When they turned in their car, they found it. You know, that kind of stuff happens, unfortunately.
Or your
So
couch. Yeah,
yeah,
or your bottom of your
Backpack.
geocaching bag.
right. Well, and I had one that I found in the track of the seat, you know, the
Mm.
driver's seat. So when I had gotten in or out of the car, it had fallen down and gotten kicked into the track. The only time I've found that is when I was working on cleaning out the car, like 3 years after I lost it. It, it happens,
It
unfortunately.
happens, yes. Now, when you're talking with the fish out of water, you mentioned that when people get trackables to for discovery of their own to discover, they kind of get addicted to it and have a whole bunch of trackables that they have in their collection to visit caches or offers. So, yeah, that's see.
So they
So
show the ring of
I'm like that as
trackables.
well. I'm like that. Well, I have my jacket, my jean jacket, my geo bag, my I have keychains. You know, I have dog tags, and I have a lucky. Here it is, a lucky rabbit's foot for good luck geocaching, and and then I forget to visit them when I'm geocaching. I need a reminder to log them.
Well, see, for the visit stuff, if you have one of the apps that does it automatically, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I use Cashly in a lot in that one. I think that does. Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if it does or
I'm not
not.
sure.
I want to say it doesn't have the option to do the automatic
I know you can
visits.
select them one at a time, but I'll
Yeah.
have to look into that. We'll
Well,
check
I
it out.
think there was a multiple select, but you have to select them. Unlike some of the other apps where you can say, okay, I want this group to always be visited. And like GSAC does
That's a
that
good
for you
idea.
too.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So what you can do with Cashly, if you're a GSAC user as well, is do not send the logs from Cashly. You do everything as normal, you know, fill it out, but you do the field note. Actually, I don't think that works for. No, that would work. Yeah, because you do the field notes, export the field notes to your email or whatever, take them in GSAC and do your submission through GSAC, and it will handle the discovers for you.
Okay.
You know, it does that
Yeah.
automatically because as long as you have that field notes, which they don't actually call field notes on geocaching.com anymore. And
Drafts.
like drafts. No, I don't think that's called drafts. I think there's a different term for it. Your field notes become drafts essentially, but they change the name of the file because it was field notes for the GPSRs, and then that changed. I just don't remember what they changed it to. I'm trying to look that up as we vamp here a little bit.
Well, since this episode was about discovering trackables, let me do a plug for the US Geocaching Hour and plug my trackable dog tag there. And for those listening in the podcast, the code is GNR9T1.
Oh, and that actually brings up something interesting when you're holding that up there. Someone actually did a TB scan on the trackable Discover that I have in every show. I found that really interesting because I think what they did is they took a screenshot and then brought it into TB scan and had it
And it worked.
OCR.
It grabbed it, huh?
Apparently it did because they logged it and it.
That's funny.
So I thought that was really, really cool. All right, so I'm going to the drafts page and upload drafts. I guess it is just called drafts now. I thought they had a different name for it, but yeah, it is just drafts. Well, that's your field note.txt file on most GPSRs.
Doug Jones said he discovered that tag over a year ago.
Well.
Well. He must be on Twitter too. Thanks, Doug.
All right, it is after 10 o'clock. You had offered Ron to do a song about the Giga event, but I don't know that we really have time for that. Are you prepared?
Yeah, I'm prepared if you want to.
All right, let's do that, and then Chris, if you can take us out after that.
All right, here we go. For all you going to the Giga event, this is a song. You know that show WKRP, right? Anyway, Neil Moore rewrote some of the words, and here it goes. Baby, if you've ever wondered whatever became of me, I'm cashing in a park in Cincinnati, GWS 16. Got kind of tired of LPCs and guardrails, town to town, in and out of lights. Maybe you and me were never meant to find, but every once in a while they show us the sights. Smileys help me shed my lonesome feelings. Road trips with friends are really a blast. Even if it's just a couple hours, we've made memories that are gonna last. So baby, if you've ever wondered whatever became of me, I'm cashing in a park in Cincinnati, GWS 16. I'm at Giga Geo Woodstock 16 in Cincinnati. Woohoo! Hope to see y'all there.
I love it. Daryl, that should be our new theme song for this year.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
I'll play it for you again on the side. I hit a wrong chord there.
That shows that it's live.
That's right. It's live. It's not Memorex.
Exactly. Ron, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All the good information you've passed along. And folks, one of the ways you can help promote GeoGearHeads to your fellow geocachers, those in your sphere, is to do an iTunes review. We got one new one this month that says, "Hi, I really enjoy this podcast. It's lighthearted and friendly, really informative, and Daryl's technical knowledge is really helpful. I also really enjoy the humor between Daryl and Chris. My caching name is S. Carpenter or Scarpenter, and I live in Nelson, New Zealand." So
cool.
Thank you, S. Carpenter, for that great iTunes review.
I like Scarpenter.
You have global listeners.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about social media is I've met so many people from Australia, England, Canada. I mean, just all over, virtually. Met them,
I love hearing from our international listeners like that because I have no idea what's really going on in New Zealand aside from the little bit I get from like podcasts
and Lord of the Rings
about what's and like the periscopes and that kind of stuff. And it really does bring the caching world together. You get a better sense of what people are doing all over the world and have some ideas to steal.
Borrow.
Yes.
without intent to return.
All right, we got a couple more shows that we want to let you know about only through the end of January. And February is a surprise to, well, frankly, all of us right now. But on the 18th, that's next week, is going to be a randomized show. And that's just going to be Chris and I talking about whatever topics we get. And we've only got a few topics right now that probably are going to take a lot of time. So if you have something that you want us to talk about, especially international stuff, make sure to send that into GeoGearHeads at cachemaniacs.com so we can include it on the show. The week after that is episode 317. And once again, we're going to be talking about 3D printing. And we've got C. Nelson and Teas and Land Monkey on to talk about that.
Oh,
Cool.
I love it. Until then, though, make sure you check out the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show's copyright 2018 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with a Cachemaniac.